I want to welcome our teachers who signed in, and I want to welcome our guest speakers, Tom, and special guests Emily White and Jason Cameron, to our first webinar, The Grid of Things. We are really excited about this new series of monthly offerings that includes workshops and webinars, and we're excited about this first topic, especially the grid of things. With us today are Tom Martin. Tom is the manager of Grid of Things with PG&E. It's a pretty amazing effort that involves, and he'll tell you more about it, but there is so much going on with expanding renewable energy, electric vehicles, new appliances, smart homes, smart grids, smart meters, and there's a real need for the utility infrastructure to be able to respond to this and grow with the changing landscape out there. I'm Barry Scott. Many of the teachers calling in know me as the State Director of the NEED Project, or National Energy Education Development Project. With us are Emily White, PG&E Community Relations, and manager of many of the programs that fall under the STEM High Schools program, including Energy Academies, the Summer Energy Internship Program, Scholarship Program, Robotics, First Robotics Program, and the Solar Suitcase Program, all of which will be kind of mentioned in passing in today's presentation, but also throughout the year with our other call opportunities. And Jason Cameron's here with us, the program manager for the PG&E Power Pathway. I'm going to take a moment. We're going to go to a video that speaks to today's topic. You'll hear an acronym from time to time, DER. It means Distributed Energy Resources. And these are all the solar parking lots and solar on roofs that you see, and so many more types of new generation, quite different from the past. And this short video will kind of tell a story that I think is consistent with today's topic.
The California grid is changing rapidly, with aggressive policy targets bringing on more renewables and more distributed energy resources. The challenge now becomes for utilities and third-party providers to ensure that the grid is operated safely and reliably.
PG&E is partnering with General Electric, Tesla, and Green Charge on a pilot in San Jose to test new technology to incorporate solar and battery connected with smart inverters to the grid. And we're using an innovative software technology called a Distributed Energy Resource Management System provided by General Electric.
One of the key goals of the project is how to integrate customer choices, how to help integrate customer-owned and operated assets into the grid operation. So when you look at all these elements, you need the proper brain to do that. And we are providing a software platform which is connecting the storage systems into the grid control room environment.
In this project, we're partnering with Tesla to put solar and batteries in about 35 homes down in San Jose.
Green Charge is installing several energy storage systems on site of commercial customers in the San Jose area. We'll be integrating our software platform with GE's Distributed Energy Resource Management System. We'll also be providing the PG&E operators with an interface with which they can view the available energy that our systems will have for them to test and demonstrate.
So what we are trying to learn here is what it takes our innovation to get to the field. Because PG&E is the best place that I can experiment what we have been innovating and learn from the real systems working.
So with this pilot, we're looking to learn about the people, process, and technology required to run the grid of the future. That's a grid with high penetration of solar, lots of batteries, and new ways of interacting with our customers.
The project teams from all companies involved really want this to be a blueprint for the industry. In the time that we've been working together, we've gotten a tremendous amount of inquiry from other utilities, distributed energy resource providers, and even customers, wondering what the outcome is going to be, what we're going to learn, so that they can take it and hopefully reproduce it in their own areas.
The goal here is to integrate these resources to continue to provide the safe, reliable, affordable, and clean grid that our customers have come to expect over the last 100 years.
And there we go. Oh, excuse me, you're going to have to...
The Halberg Ranch is a historic ranch.
There we go. These things automatically play. So today, we're going to have just a couple of slides to talk about the program and then pass it over to Tom Martin. Be sure to use the chat window if you have questions that come up during Tom's presentation, and we'll take questions and answers at the end of the presentation, or we might even take a break. And Tom, if you want to pause anywhere along your presentation and have a midway question and answer break, we can certainly invite teachers to ask a question. After that, we'll pass it to Jason, who's going to talk to us about a Center for Energy Workforce Development Careers in Energy Week is coming up, and there's a great poster and or a print ad. Well, it's a video or a poster competition, and he'll tell you more about that. We have some recommended additional STEM resources, a fabulous workshop coming up in Stockton, and we are giving away some door prizes at the very end of the presentation today. You'll be excited about that, and then we'll discuss. We'll talk about our next featured topic, the future of electric vehicles. You know, what we're doing really goes to the future and a need for that schools have for appropriate cutting edge current content that is hard for traditional textbook companies to come up with as fast as things are changing. So when we can put industry together with educators, then we can get, you know, the best and the brightest material out so that we can help you prepare your students for the future. Expanding career awareness, again, this is something that's always been a challenge for the energy industry, and as new careers are being created almost on a daily basis, it's important that we stay in touch with our schools. Developing relationships with our local offices and our local PG&E employees is important for schools, and just in the biggest way, completing a career pathway that really starts in early years for our students through high school into college and so forth into the workforce is what we want to help you all help us to do. So we're looking to recruit and retain STEM students for careers in our industry. There's a picture there of Riley Cabanero out of Arroyo Grande High School. She is a graduate from one of our 5 high school energy academies. So some of the offerings that are going to be a part of this series are STEM and energy curriculum. You'll see a few listings, and we'll be providing links for how to find that. We have workshops scheduled that'll provide attendees with training for use in hands-on kits that we'll provide. There's a FIRST Robotics grant program that's part of this series. More than one different way for you to work with students to explore STEM careers, including a Green 360 program and others. We can put you in touch with industry expert speakers. We'll be providing those on calls like we are today, but we can also work offline to help your schools set up potentially field trips and or visits to your site. We have the paid summer internship program that's really been successful now for 4 summers running, and then scholarships for college and university students in STEM fields. Over here on the left is Brian Richardson. He's a fabulous teacher in our Solar Suitcase program there with his Solar Suitcase during a training. He's a teacher at Madera South High School. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Tom Martin. And Tom, I'm going to give you as much time really as I think you're going to have easily till 4 o'clock or 4:05 if you like. And
okay.
And I'll let you. I'm going to pass you the microphone.
Sounds great. Thanks, Barry, and thanks for teeing it up. As Barry mentioned, we're very interested in how do we encourage more students to be interested in STEM, leading to STEM careers. It's a bit of I think a win-win opportunity that PG&E benefits as well from more students being engaged in STEM, more students being involved in STEM careers. So what we're hoping to do is today walk through a little bit of how the grid is changing, how PG&E is evolving, just to paint a picture of what that looks like. So that everyone on the call is aware of the changes that are happening and some of the ways that PG&E is looking to address those changes. Is everyone able to, Barry, are we able to see the screen okay?
I've got you full screen, yeah.
Cool. All right. So as I think most people in California are aware, PG&E, as the name implies, is both a gas and electric utility. The most important thing here to note is this 300,000 solar customers. That's a lot, and that represents a significant change over the past few years. That number has climbed from 40 to 100 to 200, and now all the way up to 300 in just a span of a couple of years. And that's a big change for the way that the electric grid works. The traditional electrical grid has this one-way power flow where we had large generation plants that pushed electrons over PG&E's transmission and distribution lines out to the customer home. It was easy for the utility to control the flow of electricity and easy to match the needs of consumption, the needs of customers to use that power with the generation of the electricity. But now that's changing with this high penetration of distributed energy resources. And as Barry mentioned at the beginning, distributed energy resources, or DERs, are everything from rooftop solar to electric vehicles, customers who are starting to put battery storage inside their house. You may have seen the Tesla Powerwall. All of these things, one, are changing the way that electrons flow around the grid. Two, they're also intermittent resources. If you think of solar, you don't just turn on your solar panel. It turns on whenever the sun happens to shine on it. Now, fortunately, in California, we get a lot of that sun, but on days where it's cloudy, or on the random day where you have a solar eclipse, that generation stops instantaneously. And so it creates a challenge for how we balance the grid. Some of you may have heard of the California duck curve. And this is then that change, that solar-driven change, but on the macro level. So what you're seeing here is the top couple of lines are the forecast of the total load for 2012, 2013, 2014. And then you'll start noticing this, this quote, belly of the duck that's growing and growing. And what is happening here is that more and more solar is being added to the system. And so as solar is added to the system, the hours between 9 and 5 or 6 is when the solar starts coming online, and is reducing the need of the system to produce other forms of electricity. So you have this growing belly of the duck, and then all of a sudden the solar is turning off as the sun sets, and at the exact same time load and customers are coming home, they're turning on their ovens, they're starting to cook dinner after work, and you have this huge increase in load at the exact same time that you're losing some of the power generation. So you need to quickly ramp up and have some extreme flexibility to meet those needs. This creates challenges because traditional energy sources have not been designed for this sort of ramp. They're much more of they'd much rather be in this kind of smooth, they can go up and down a little bit, but don't ask them to change their pattern too much. That's when large traditional power generation is at its best. And these changes are only going to continue growing. I mentioned we have 300,000 solar customers. Just for perspective, that's 25% of the total installation across the entire United States. We have 125,000 customers with electric vehicles. That's another 20% of the entire population of the United States. And then on top of that, there's this growing energy efficiency. So PG&E has over 800 gigawatt hours of energy efficiency. So what that means is, as you're having all of these new things changing, solar and electric vehicles and wind and batteries, at the exact same time that you're having the more stable, more easily to identify and to manage loads such as lighting and heating and cooling, these are shrinking relative to all of the other things as we focus on energy efficiency. California is targeting even higher goals, as you can see on the right half of this screen, 50% renewables, 1.5 million electric vehicles, and doubling the energy efficiency. All of this is to say that the changes that we're seeing on the grid are happening even faster and are continuing to accelerate in California. So the change that this brings to the grid is kind of one of perspective and focus. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was pretty easy to understand the needs of all of the customers of the grid. Everyone wanted pretty much the same thing. They wanted to come home and hit the light switch and have the lights turn on every time at an affordable price. They wanted safe, reliable, and affordable power. That's changing though, as the needs of the customers change. They still want that safe, reliable, and affordable power, but they also want distributed generation, solar, and they want electric vehicles and cybersecurity and battery storage, and they want the ability to choose how they interact with the grid. And the challenge is, if we want all of these things and all of these things are important, where do we put our focus? Where do we put our effort? How do we take this very distributed focus and realign it so that we can move forward in one direction? And the direction that PG&E has identified is what we're calling the grid of things. in the same way that the Internet of Things brings all of these connected devices together and allows them to communicate with each other, the grid of things is doing the same thing. So the grid is bringing together and communicating with customer devices and renewable energy and building management systems and allowing customers to interact with the grid in the way that they think is most beneficial to them. So it's a platform. The grid is a platform that allows customers to move forward into this new energy future in a way that creates the value that they want to see. We're doing a really interesting pilot project on the grid of things. It's a pilot down in San Jose where we've partnered with Tesla, that was formerly known as the Solar City before the two merged, and a company called Green Charge. And we have a number of different new clean energy devices on this system. Tesla, we start with a utility-owned large utility battery system. That's the large PG&E owned asset. Then we also have a combination of 35 residential customers who have both solar and batteries at their house that they're, for this pilot, are going to allow PG&E to control. So Tesla has installed rooftop solar and then also some of the Tesla batteries in the garage. And then third, we have partnered with 3 large commercial and industrial customers. We have Overfelt High School. We also have a Safeway and a Chuck E. Cheese, all of which installed these large commercial scale battery systems that they are also allowing PG&E to control for this pilot. And the way that we're controlling these devices is through a GE system. So the goal here is really to create a system that acts as the orchestra conductor for all of these customer-owned devices. On that first slide that I introed, customer devices were sending and buying power kind of haphazardly whenever they wanted, without consideration for the needs of all the customers on the grid. This GE system acts as that harmonizer that says it would be really great if batteries could charge during this part of the day, and if solar could change its output during this part of the day, so that we can deal with that duck curve in a way that supports all of these changes with solar and batteries and electric vehicles. And the reason we're doing this is so that we can capture as much value for our customers from these devices. If you have a Tesla battery installed in your home, it's really only providing you this energy benefit. That battery is being used for one purpose. It's to provide backup energy for your home. But it can be unlocked, and it has underutilized potential that it can be tapped into. It can provide capacity services and distribution services and operational support. All of these things are valuable to the customers and mean that the asset that has already been purchased, the device that the customer has already installed, can now be used more efficiently. The example that I give, and the reason we call it the gig economy of distributed energy resources, is if you think 5 years ago, before all of the ride sharing, there if you owned a car, that car sat in the garage whenever you weren't using it to drive to and from the store, whenever you weren't the one trying to use that asset. Now, fast forward 5 years and there's UberX and there's Lyft. That same asset that a customer owns can not only be used for the times where they want to get somewhere, but now there's this additional value stream that they can drive other people around. That depreciating asset can now be utilized at a much higher percentage with a much higher uptime, and therefore is a more valuable asset to the customer who owns it. That's the exact same thing that we're trying to do with batteries, with solar, with electric vehicle batteries. How do we make sure that those assets can be used to their full potential? A quick example of then what the output of this project looks like. On the top here in blue, you can kind of hidden some of the time behind the yellow line is the original forecast. It's not quite as extreme as that duck chart, but you can see it dips down during the middle of the day and then spikes up. And there's this portion of the day where it actually exceeds the limit on the system. The Grid of Things software runs an optimization, and down below asks the different customer resources to participate with the grid in a coordinated fashion. And this is the output of that coordination. The yellow line is then the optimized end result of how the energy actually gets used. The blue was that forecast where we had this steep spike and overload situation. And the yellow, you can see it's much smoother. It doesn't have as many troughs and peaks. It doesn't exceed the threshold limit. And it does that by smoothing out using batteries and solar as a way to help manage the grid and help make the grid safer and more reliable, more affordable, and cleaner. That's a lot of information, and so I'll kind of pause there for any questions that anyone has. Either feel free to just ask out loud or send a chat message. Either way works.
Yeah, you're all free to unmute. You should be able to unmute your microphone and ask a question audibly. And if that doesn't work, just type in a question.
Tom, this is Emily. I'm just wondering if you were to start over from scratch, if there hadn't been an existing grid, with all of the technology that we have now, how would you build it?
Yeah, great question. It would definitely look a lot different. There's this huge economy of scale that's always existed on let's generate power in the most centralized, largest power plant we can, and then we'll send that we'll send that downstream. I think if it was to be rebuilt totally from scratch, what you would see is more kind of clusters, neighborhoods, maybe even whole cities where there's a mix of batteries and solar and electric vehicles that can balance the needs of the grid, that can keep the grid operating efficiently, but that doesn't have to have this huge statewide and interstate-wide transmission connection. That would be my hypothesis on how it would get rebuilt today.
Interesting. Thank you.
Sure.
Tom, I've got a question too, which is where do you see, and I think the quick answer might be everywhere, but where do you see jobs opening up, and where do you see the greatest opportunity and need for as it relates to students who are, sophomores, juniors, seniors now? What is it that they're? Yeah.
Great question. I think the easy out answer is specifically within STEM there is a huge need. To be a little more specific, engineers who can help the current managers of the grid is a little more like an air traffic controller. You don't necessarily have to understand everything about how to build a plane in order to be an air traffic controller. A lot of times it's a high school graduate who learns through an apprenticeship. That job is actually going away some and is being replaced by people who better understand the core of this technology, is better understanding the renewables, the solar, the electric vehicles, and how to flex these so that they can then be a much more informed air traffic controller or grid controller. So I think more into engineering, and the more engineers we can get, the better. And we'd love to see that.
Great. I've got it.
I'm also I'm seeing a question online from Renee. So Renee asked, what are the plans to use public or private energy stores during emergencies, maybe resiliency during earthquakes? That's a really good question. So the more distributed your energy sources, meaning instead of having this one large power plant that then pushes energy out through transmission and distribution, the more distributed you can have it, the more resilient you're able to be, because whether it's an earthquake or a hurricane or some sort of natural disaster, you have fewer bottlenecks, you have fewer potential like single points of failure. Right now, if you lose a transmission line heading into a city, that city has lost a huge source of its energy. If you have an earthquake that takes out that transmission line today, that's a huge problem. If in the future you have this approach where everyone gets power from a little bit of solar and a little bit of electric vehicles and a little bit from batteries and other clean energy sources, maybe someone loses their power. Maybe the earthquake knocks off some people's solar panels or some of their batteries fail, but you don't have this like one failure that takes out the entire city. You just have small pieces here and there.
Right.
And so I think that also answers David's question that was similar, asking about an earthquake. It would be very similar in that you can now sectionalize and make those outages, instead of one giant outage of 100,000 people, now you have just the couple of people who really got hit the hardest. They're still going to be out of power. It's still an earthquake or a hurricane or some other natural disaster. But only the people who are immediately affected by that natural disaster are going to be the ones who lose power.
That's terrific. Those are great questions, and it really is a part of, I know, part of what the industry is looking at: emergency response and resiliency, and kind of, it reminds me of a self-healing system, sort of. It even automatically has a capacity to respond to unknown crises and keep things going. That's great. Do you have anything else, Tom? Or I see we're at 4:09.
Nothing else for me. I appreciate the good questions on this, and thanks for giving the opportunity to share our Grid of Things story.
Terrific questions. I'm really excited about the future with the industry and the jobs. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it. I'm going to take back and finish up our slideshow so that we kind of end on time. Let's see if this works. Show my screen. Yeah, that was terrific. We took care of our questions. Jason, are you on the call? It's your slide, kiddo.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Awesome. All right. So just want to put a quick plug in for the Careers in Energy Week contest. This is, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, a contest that's supported by all of the large utilities in the state and some of our municipal colleagues as well. And the goal is to expose students to careers in energy. And it's open to all high school and college students in the state of California. They have to be at one of our schools, so one of the high schools, a CSU, UC, community college. They cannot be going to an out-of-state school. We've received that question in the past. And let's see, the contest goes until October 31st. And all entries must be submitted online at our website, at www.getintoenergyca.com. And the contest is buried in there, but if you find that Careers in Energy or Careers tab inside of the website, there should be a way to electronically submit either a print advertisement or a 1 to 2 minute video describing careers in the utility and energy industry.
Great. I will be sending everyone on the call a link, the same flyer, and a link to the contest so that you can jump right on it. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Yep.
Also, in the email that I send to you, I want to let you know that the NEED project has several. This is just a sampling of 8 titles. Our materials are available for K through high school, but I'm listing a few high school titles. These are we have the NEED project has kits, hands-on kits for sale, as well as curriculum, print curriculum that's available for free download. And it's really the best stuff. I don't know, for those of you who don't know me, I was a teacher for 8 years, and I use this material extensively, and it's kind of why I went to work for the NEED project. It's high quality. We're correlated to next generation science standards, and we have a document to help you find your way through that. And you can see the covers here. These are samples of curriculum. I will send you links for free download, and you can use what you want. And I hope that you'll visit the website and look for more. You can search by keyword if you're really interested in transportation or hydrogen or climate change. There's just a great many titles available. And again, they're all correlated to next generation science standards. And we are so excited. We're having a workshop November 7th in Stockton at the Energy Training Center, which is a fabulous new facility. It's barely a year old, maybe it's 2 years old now. And in addition to time spent training with solar hands-on kits, wind energy kits, and an energy auditing kit with working with the tools, you'll get to tour the Energy Training Center. We'll have some speakers on the topic of career exploration and tools that you can use with your kids to help them do some career exploration. Lunch and breakfast are provided, and you'll get one of the kits that you'll get your choice of the 3 different kits that we're going to be using. It's open to any schools in the PG&E service area, and we'll be taking applications, and we'll be kind of making selections, we want to make sure that we don't get all, for example, all teachers from Sacramento. We hope we get a good representation that across the entire service area. So look for a link to that registration in the follow-up email that you get tomorrow morning. These are some just a quick pics of the tools and the kits. And look at my misspelled word, DITS, classroom DITS. I'm so sorry. Energy audit tools to the left, you'll see a light meter, thermometers, and so forth, and a kilowatt meter there. In the middle are the wind turbines that are in the wind kits, and to the right are photovoltaics kits that are in the solar kits that are available. And with that, we have a drawing. We have a door prize. A kilowatt meter is going to be provided to, and I've got to make sure that they're still on the call. Yes, Renee LaFrenz is the winner of a kilowatt meter.
Woo-hoo!
Woo! I hope you're there. Feel free to turn your there you go. I got a nice woo. Good, by chat. That's great. If you don't know what a kilowatt meter is, it's an integral tool to measure consumption of anything that plugs into the wall. It will measure the usage in kilowatt hours over up to 999 hours, and you can check one machine after another. And with your students and the curriculum that comes with it that we provide, you will really get a good head start on learning how to do energy audits. And you can send your students home with a kilowatt meter to do a home energy audit. You can do a classroom energy audit, and much, much more. Very excited. Okay, so to wrap up, we're going to be sending you a follow-up email with a link to the recording of today's presentation, invitation to the Stockton workshop, links to the Careers in Energy competition. I'll send you links to download that curriculum that I mentioned, and we're creating a feedback survey. We want to know how to make things better for the next calls, and look forward to having you join us on the November 1st webinar, which is going to speak to the future of electric vehicles, not just electric cars, but electric transit and the vehicle to grid possibilities and all kinds of good stuff. So with that, does anyone have any questions or comments? I want to thank Tom and Jason and Emily for making this possible, and we hope to see you on the next call. Thank you. Funds available for the Stockton training, Renee asks. You are the Stockton workshop is free to attend, and you'll get breakfast and lunch, and the kit will be provided. A classroom kit will be provided. We don't have a budget to assist in travel. Great. Okay, and if you're still on the call, Mike asked about the robotics, first robotics program. That'll be a topic that comes up, but you're all free to email me any questions that you might have on any of the programs or opportunities that you mentioned. There is a first robotics support program, and some of our offerings are kind of under development and not quite ready for prime time, but we will work with all of you for any questions that you have. Okay. Well, I think we're done, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next call, November 1st. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Bye, Emily.
Bye.